I'm Amber Miller, 29, and when my phone lit up with that text from Mom, I felt a weight lift. Let's skip Christmas this year for peace, it read. After decades of holiday battles, tears, and forced smiles, I immediately replied, perfect. For the first time, I imagined December without walking on eggshells. But as days passed with no response, something felt off. That silence? It wasn't agreement. It was the calm before my parents' biggest Christmas storm yet. Before I dive into what happened next, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and let me know if your family holidays are peaceful or chaotic. Trust me, this Christmas story has more twists than a candy cane. To understand why a simple text about skipping Christmas felt like winning the lottery, you need to know about the Millers. I work in marketing in Boston, having escaped my Connecticut hometown right after college. I love my job, my cozy apartment, and the life I've built. But family gatherings, especially Christmas? Pure anxiety fuel. My mother, Stephanie, is what my therapist diplomatically calls a woman with strong opinions. She plans holidays like military operations, with perfect decorations, perfect food, and perfect family photos, regardless of the emotional cost. My father, Robert, is her polar opposite, conflict-averse to a fault. He's mastered the art of disappearing into newspaper pages whenever Mom starts one of her holiday inquisitions about my career, love life, or why I don't visit more often. The Christmas disasters are legendary in my personal history. When I was 16, I saved for months to buy Mom a silver bracelet. She opened it, paused, and said, "I suppose this is nice if you like costume jewelry." I had splurged on what the salesperson assured me was real silver. That night, I cried myself to sleep. At 21, during my senior year of college, dinner imploded when my uncle started a political debate that ended with my mother saying I'd been brainwashed by liberal professors. I spent the rest of the night hiding in my childhood bedroom. But the breaking point came at 25. Mom invited the neighbor's son Thomas for Christmas dinner, without warning me. She'd prepared a mistletoe-laden seating arrangement that would have made a matchmaking reality show producer blush with embarrassment. Poor Thomas looked as uncomfortable as I felt while Mom asked if we'd set a date yet after we'd been forced to speak to each other for approximately 7 minutes. That's when I started therapy with Dr. Lawson, who helped me understand that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary. For the past 4 years, I've been working on saying no without feeling guilty and recognizing manipulation tactics. Progress has been slow but steady. So when that text arrived, I felt like I'd finally gotten through to them. I immediately called my best friend Hannah. They actually suggested skipping Christmas, I told her, pacing around my apartment. "This is huge, Hannah. They've never acknowledged that our holidays are stressful." "Wow," Hannah said. "That's surprising, but good. What are you going to do instead?" That question opened a world of possibilities I'd never considered. Christmas on my terms? The thought was both exhilarating and foreign. "Maybe we could do that cabin trip we've talked about?" I suggested. "You, me, Tyler, and Jordan? A real, relaxing Christmas?"
Hannah's enthusiasm matched mine.
That evening, I found myself booking a charming cabin in Vermont for Christmas week. 4 days of snow, friends, good food, and zero family drama. For the first time in my adult life, I looked forward to December. But as 2 weeks passed with no further communication from my parents, I felt a twinge of unease. Usually, my mother texted daily, asking about everything from my lunch choices to my dating prospects. The silence was uncharacteristic, but I brushed it off as them processing our new holiday arrangement. I should have known better. In the Miller family, silence never means acceptance. It means someone's planning something. The marketing agency where I work gets frantic before holiday breaks. As creative director for our biggest client's winter campaign, I was deep in final approvals when my phone buzzed. Seeing Aunt Jessica's name was unexpected. We usually only exchanged birthday texts and occasional family updates. "Amber, honey, how are you?" Her voice had that careful tone adults use when talking to someone they believe might be fragile. "I'm good, Aunt Jessica. Just swamped before the holiday. What's up?" A pause. "Well, I wanted to check about Christmas. Your mom seems to think you're not coming, and I just wanted to see if everything's okay. The cold feeling that spread through my chest had nothing to do with the office air conditioning. Wait, what do you mean? Mom texted me suggesting we skip Christmas this year. I agreed. Skip Christmas. Aunt Jessica sounded genuinely confused. Honey, your mother has been planning this Christmas since August. She's invited the entire extended family. She told everyone it's going to be the biggest Miller Christmas ever. My stomach dropped as Aunt Jessica continued. She's been telling everyone you're going through some phase and refusing to come home for the holidays. Your Uncle Carl is coming from Arizona. Your cousin's from Chicago. Everyone's worried about you, sweetie. I felt like I'd stepped into an alternate reality. That's not. She specifically suggested skipping Christmas. I have the text. I pulled up the message as we spoke, confirming I hadn't hallucinated the whole exchange. There it was. Let's skip Christmas this year for peace. My perfect response. Then nothing. Well, Aunt Jessica said carefully, all I know is that your mother sent formal invitations 3 weeks ago for Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas Day brunch. She's been calling everyone, making sure they're coming. She even mentioned something about a special surprise for you. The special surprise. Those words sent a chill down my spine. In Miller speak, that usually meant an ambush of some sort, an unexpected dinner guest, an announcement involving me that I hadn't approved, or some grand gesture that served my mother's narrative rather than my actual wishes. After thanking Aunt Jessica for the heads up, I immediately tried calling my parents. Straight to voicemail. I tried 3 more times with the same result. Just as I was contemplating the pros and cons of throwing my phone across the office, a group text appeared from my mother. Christmas Secret Santa assignments. Remember $50 limit and NO gift cards. Looking at you, Uncle Phil. Amber, you have cousin Melissa. Can't wait to see everyone at our house for the biggest Miller Christmas yet. Attached was a detailed schedule of Christmas Eve dinner, midnight caroling, Christmas morning brunch, afternoon gift exchange, and evening dinner. My name appeared throughout, assigned to bring specific dishes and participate in each activity. They'd never intended to skip Christmas. They'd simply wanted me to agree to peace, their version of peace, where I stopped resisting their plans and played my assigned role in the family production. I stared at my phone, torn between rage and disbelief. There was only one thing to do. I left work early, texting my boss Grace that I had a family emergency. The irony wasn't lost on me. This was indeed a family emergency, just not the kind that normally qualifies for leaving the office before deadline day. The 2-hour drive to my parents' suburban Connecticut home gave me plenty of time to rehearse what I wanted to say. I practiced Dr. Lawson's suggested phrases. I feel misled when, instead of, you lied to me, and I need clarity about our communication instead of, what the hell is wrong with you people? By the time I pulled onto Maple Street, where my parents had lived for 35 years, darkness had fallen. The neighborhood was transformed into a holiday wonderland, each house trying to outdo the next with lights and decorations. And then there was my parents' house, visible from 3 blocks away, a beacon of excessive Christmas spirit. Every inch of the colonial-style home was covered in lights. A life-size nativity scene dominated the front yard. An inflatable Santa and reindeer bobbed on the roof. A sign proclaiming Miller Family Christmas Spectacular stood in the center of the lawn, with a countdown clock to December 25th. So much for skipping Christmas. I parked behind my father's car and sat for a moment, gathering my courage. This confrontation wasn't just about Christmas plans. It was about years of manipulation, of my feelings being secondary to the family narrative. Mom answered the door in a Christmas apron, flour dusting her perfectly highlighted hair. Her surprise at seeing me quickly morphed into delight. Amber, what a wonderful surprise. I was just making your favorite Christmas cookies. She tried to pull me into a hug, but I stepped back. We need to talk, I said, walking past her into the house I grew up in. The interior was even more Christmas intensive than the exterior. Every surface held snowmen, Santas, or angels. The massive tree in the living room was already up and decorated, though Christmas was still weeks away. The house smelled like cinnamon and pine, scents that once represented comfort, but now felt cloying. Dad looked up from his recliner, remote in hand. Amber, didn't expect you until Christmas Eve. His smile faltered as he registered my expression. Why did you text me about skipping Christmas when you clearly had no intention of doing that? I asked, pulling out my phone and showing them the message. Mom's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, recognition, then something that looked rehearsed.
Oh, that.
I meant skipping the stress of Christmas. You know, having peace during Christmas instead of any of those little disagreements we sometimes have. That's not what the text says. I insisted. It says, let's skip Christmas this year for peace. And I agreed. Now I find out you've planned the biggest Christmas ever and told the entire family I'm refusing to come. Dad shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Your mother just wants the family together, Amber. It's Christmas. Aunt Jessica said you've been telling everyone I'm going through a phase. What does that even mean? Mom's eyes welled with tears, right on cue. I'd seen this performance before. We just don't understand why you're pulling away from the family. Christmas is about being together. I thought if everyone was here, you'd change your mind. Change my mind? I didn't make up my mind about anything. You suggested skipping Christmas. I agreed. And then you planned all this without telling me. Well, you didn't really think we'd cancel Christmas, Mom said, as if I was being completely unreasonable. It's our tradition. Then why suggest skipping it? I demanded. Mom busied herself straightening already straight Christmas stockings. I thought you'd realize how important family is and come around. Everyone's expecting you. I've already told them about your promotion and how you'll be bringing those delicious cranberry muffins you made last year. The manipulation was so blatant, it was almost impressive. My promotion was still under wraps at work. I hadn't told her about it yet. She'd clearly been talking to my colleague Diane, who was also my mother's hairdresser's cousin. As for the muffins, I'd burned them last year, and everyone knew it. There's something else you should know, Dad interjected, looking uncomfortable. Your mother thought it would be nice to have Brian join us for Christmas dinner. Brian, my ex-boyfriend from 3 years ago. The one my mother still referred to as the one who got away, despite the fact that he'd cheated on me with his coworker. You invited my ex to Christmas? I could barely get the words out. As a surprise. Mom clasped her hands together. He's moved back to town, and he's single again. He always loved our family Christmases. The room seemed to spin around me. This went beyond normal holiday manipulation. This was a complete disregard for my feelings, my boundaries, and my explicitly stated wishes. If you really loved us, Mom said, her voice quivering with emotion, you'd be here for Christmas. Family comes first, Amber. Always. And there it was, the emotional blackmail tactic I'd been working to recognize in therapy. If you really loved us. As if love was measured by my willingness to subject myself to their manipulation. I'm not coming to Christmas, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Not because I don't love you, but because this isn't love. This is control. And I deserve better. I walked out as my mother began to cry in earnest, and my father called after me. Driving away from their Christmas wonderland, tears blurred my vision. But for once, by the time I reached my apartment in Boston, emotional exhaustion had set in. I kicked off my shoes, collapsed onto my couch, and finally let myself break down completely. The sobs came from somewhere deep, years of pent-up feelings flooding out at once. My phone buzzed repeatedly, texts from Mom ranging from tearful apologies to subtle guilt trips. We just want to see you at Christmas. Is that so wrong? Your grandmother might not have many Christmases left. Brian was so looking forward to seeing you. Each message twisted the emotional knife. I flashed back to childhood patterns I'd normalized for years. Mom crying when I wanted to attend a friend's birthday instead of a family event. Dad saying, just apologize to your mother, when she was the one who had crossed a line. The constant message that family loyalty meant submitting to their version of events. I called Dr. Lawson's after-hours line, something I'd never done before. You're not overreacting, Amber. she assured me after I recounted the evening's events. What you're describing is a pattern of emotional manipulation. Setting boundaries isn't rejecting your family, it's asking for a healthier relationship. But what if they're right? I whispered. What if I'm being selfish? It's just a few days of Christmas. Is it really just about Christmas? She asked gently. Or is it about your right to make choices without manipulation? The question hung in the air as I considered years of similar situations. Christmas was just the battlefield. The war was about autonomy. My doorbell rang. Hannah had come bearing wine and takeout after my SOS text. You look like hell, she said bluntly, giving me a fierce hug. Thanks. I feel like hell. I managed a weak smile. Hannah listened as I recounted everything, her expression growing increasingly outraged. They invited Brian? Your cheating ex? That's crossing a line. She poured generous glasses of wine for both of us. And that text was clearly about skipping Christmas entirely. They're gaslighting you. That's what Dr. Lawson said, though not in those exact words. I sipped my wine. But now the entire extended family thinks I'm having some kind of breakdown and refusing to participate in Christmas. As if on cue, my phone chimed with messages from relatives. Your mother is so upset, Amber. Christmas means everything to her. Uncle Phil. We're all concerned about you, sweetie. Aunt Linda. Don't be so hard on your parents. They just miss you. Cousin Stephen. Each message made me question my reality a little more. Was I the villain in this story? Then came a different message from Aunt Jessica. I spoke with your mother. I understand your side now. Do what's right for you, not what makes everyone else comfortable. That small validation was like oxygen. Hannah scrolled through my social media while I picked at my food. Your mom's already posted about Christmas preparations, she reported. 3 albums worth. And she's tagged you in everything. Sure enough, there was my mother's Facebook page, a shrine to Christmas preparations. Photos of the guest room, being prepared for Amber's arrival. Pictures of my childhood ornaments with captions about, hoping to see these on the tree when our daughter comes home. Posts about Brian helping my father hang lights for our Christmas reunion. The public narrative was being established. I was the prodigal daughter who needed to come to her senses and return to the fold. The next morning at work, I couldn't focus. My presentation was disjointed, my thoughts scattered. Grace, my boss, called me into her office afterward. What's going on, Amber? This isn't like you. I hesitated, then gave her the abbreviated version. To my surprise, she nodded with complete understanding. Family holidays, she sighed. My mother used to call everyone in the family if I missed Sunday dinner to tell them I was pulling away from the family. I finally started hosting my own holidays with friends. Her understanding made me feel less alone, but the weight remained. That night, I stared at the cabin reservation on my laptop. Maybe I should just cancel it. Maybe giving in would be easier than fighting this battle. Maybe peace meant surrender. They've been doing this to me for years too. I looked up from my latte in surprise. I was having coffee with my cousin Melissa, my assigned Secret Santa recipient, and one of the few family members I genuinely connected with. She'd texted asking to meet while she was in Boston for a job interview, and I'd agreed, expecting awkward questions about Christmas. Instead, she was offering solidarity. Your mom calls my mom whenever I miss a family event, Melissa continued. Suddenly, everyone's concerned about my priorities and my phase. Last Easter, Aunt Stephanie told everyone I couldn't make it because of work stress, when actually I told her weeks before I was going to my boyfriend's family gathering. Why haven't we ever talked about this before? I asked. Melissa shrugged. The family system works by keeping us separate. If we compare notes, the manipulation doesn't work as well. Her words echoed what Dr. Lawson had explained in our last session. Emotional blackmail relies on isolation. When you believe you're the only one experiencing the manipulation, you're more likely to doubt yourself. The conversation with Melissa marked a turning point. I wasn't crazy, selfish, or unreasonable. I was just the family member currently in the spotlight for challenging the status quo. That night, I wrote a careful email to my parents. Mom and Dad, I love you both, and that will never change. But I need you to understand that love doesn't mean allowing myself to be manipulated. The text about skipping Christmas was clear, and my agreement was genuine. Instead of respecting that, you planned an even bigger Christmas and created a false narrative about me to the family. I won't be attending Christmas this year. This isn't about punishing you. It's about respecting myself enough to maintain the boundaries I've communicated. I've made other plans based on our agreement to skip Christmas, and I intend to keep them. I'll send gifts for everyone, and I'd be happy to visit in January when we can hopefully have a calmer conversation about mutual respect. Love, Amber. Hitting send felt like setting down a heavy burden I'd been carrying for years. For the first time, I'd stated my position without apologizing for having one. The next day at work, Grace stopped by my desk. "You look better today. Family situation improving." "Not exactly," I admitted. "But I'm getting better at handling it." She nodded approvingly. "You know, I spent years dreading holidays before I realized I could create my own traditions. Now December is actually my favorite month. That's what I'm trying to do this year," I told her. "My friends and I rented a cabin in Vermont." "Good for you," she said. "The family we choose is just as important as the family we're born into, sometimes more so." Her words stayed with me as I finalized our cabin plans, ordered thoughtful gifts for my family members to be delivered to my parent house, and focused on completing my work projects before vacation. The week before Christmas, my mother's text arrived. "Santa will miss you, but we understand. Brian will be disappointed too. Your grandmother keeps asking if you'll change your mind." The message was clear. They didn't understand at all. But for once, that didn't shake my resolve. Their understanding wasn't required for my boundaries to be valid. I packed my bag for Vermont with a mixture of excitement and lingering anxiety. I was breaking a lifetime pattern of acquiescence, and while it felt right, it also felt terrifying. But with each item I packed, comfortable sweaters instead of the formal outfits my mother expected at Christmas, novels I wanted to read instead of forced conversation starters, hiking boots instead of uncomfortable heels, I felt myself reclaiming the holiday. This Christmas would be on my terms. And for the first time in my adult life, I was genuinely looking forward to December 25th. The Vermont cabin exceeded my expectations. Nestled among snow-covered pines with panoramic mountain views, it was the polar opposite of my parents' suburban Christmas extravaganza. No blinking lights or inflatable decorations, just natural beauty, a stone fireplace, and the company of people who accepted me exactly as I was. "This is officially the best Christmas decision ever," Hannah declared as we unloaded groceries in the rustic kitchen. Our friends Tyler and Jordan had already started a fire and were setting up a modest Christmas tree in the corner, a real one that smelled of forest rather than my mother's artificial, perfect tree. "We're doing a completely drama-free Christmas," Tyler announced. "The only tears allowed are from laughing too hard or being moved by thoughtful gifts." On Christmas Eve, as gentle snow fell outside, we cooked dinner together, laughing at mishaps rather than stressing over perfection. No one criticized the slightly overcooked potatoes or the store-bought pie. We played board games by the fire, drank mulled wine, and shared stories. My phone buzzed occasionally with updates from home. Aunt Jessica sent a supportive message. "Dinner is chaotic here. You made the right choice. Your mother seated Brian where you would have been, and he's clearly uncomfortable." A twinge of guilt hit me, not for Brian's discomfort, but for the small part of me that still felt responsible for my family's emotions. Dr. Lawson had warned me about this. Guilt is the tool they've installed in you to bring you back in line. Notice it, acknowledge it, but don't let it drive your decisions. Mom sent a photo of an empty chair at the dinner table with the caption, "Missing you," a classic guilt tactic that would have devastated me in previous years. This time, I simply turned off notifications and rejoined my friends' laughter. Cousin Melissa texted detailed updates that confirmed I'd made the right choice. Uncle Carl is arguing politics with Dad. Grandma asked Brian when he's making an honest woman out of you and doesn't believe you broke up years ago. Mom and your mom are competing over whose stuffing recipe is better. Instead of being pulled into the family drama, I was present in a moment of genuine connection. Hannah, Tyler, Jordan, and I exchanged gifts on Christmas Eve, a casual affair with everyone in pajamas. They'd each chosen something that reflected actual knowledge of who I was. Books by my favorite authors, art supplies for the painting hobby I'd recently taken up, a donation to the animal shelter where I volunteered. No one gave me kitchen appliances with the passive-aggressive suggestion that I should cook more for when you meet someone special, Mom's gift last year. No one questioned my career choices or relationship status. No one needed me to be anyone other than exactly who I was. Christmas morning dawned clear and bright. We made pancakes together, then went snowshoeing in the pristine landscape. The profound peace I felt had nothing to do with avoiding conflict. It came from being authentic and respected. "You seem different," Hannah observed as we trekked through the snow. "More relaxed than I've ever seen you during the holidays." "I feel different," I admitted. "Like I'm finally experiencing Christmas instead of performing it." More messages arrived from family throughout the day. Some were supportive, others laden with guilt. My father's brief text, "Your mother is trying her best," nearly pulled me back into the familiar pattern of prioritizing her feelings over mine. But surrounded by the beauty of Vermont and the warmth of true friendship, I found it easier to maintain perspective. This wasn't about rejecting my family. It was about creating space for a healthier relationship with them and with myself. That night, as we sat by the fire sharing childhood Christmas memories, I realized something important. I wasn't alone in navigating complicated family dynamics. Hannah described her divorced parents' competition over who could win Christmas. Tyler talked about coming out to his religious family one Christmas and the years of tension that followed. Jordan shared how his perfectionist father had made holidays a performance rather than a celebration. "So, how did you handle it?" I asked them. "How did you find peace with it all?" "I stopped expecting them to change and changed my responses instead," Tyler said. "Some years I visit, some years I don't. But I never abandon myself anymore." That phrase, "I never abandon myself anymore," resonated deeply. For years, I'd abandoned my own needs, feelings, and boundaries to keep the peace. This Christmas, for the first time, I was refusing to abandon myself. The peace I felt wasn't from avoiding my family, it was from honoring my truth. As we raised glasses in a toast on Christmas night, I felt something I'd never associated with a holiday before: freedom. Returning to Boston after New Year's, I felt like a different person than the one who had fled to Vermont. The cabin experience had shown me what holidays could be: peaceful, joyful, authentic, and that knowledge changed my perspective on family relationships moving forward. In my first session back with Dr. Lawson, I share the entire Christmas story, from the misleading text to the Vermont escape. I feel guilty for saying this, I admit it, but it was the best Christmas I've ever had. "Why should you feel guilty about that?" she asked. "Because holidays are supposed to be about family." "And weren't you with family in Vermont?" "Perhaps not biological family, but people who care about you and respect your boundaries." Her reframing helped me see that I hadn't rejected family. I'd simply expanded my definition of it to include the family I'd chosen. A week later, an unexpected email arrived from my father. "Amber, I'm not good with words like your mother, but I want to say I'm sorry about Christmas. You're right that we didn't respect your decision. Your mother had her heart set on everyone being together, and I went along with it instead of listening to what you were saying. I've been thinking about what you said about manipulation. I don't think we see it that way, but I understand why you might. Your mother shows love through big family gatherings. When you don't participate, she takes it as rejection. That's not your responsibility to fix, I know. We miss you. Maybe we can try again with less pressure." Dad, the email wasn't perfect. It still partially justified their actions and didn't fully acknowledge the pattern of manipulation. But it was the most genuine communication I'd received from my father in years, and the first time he'd ever suggested my mother might be wrong about something. In therapy, Dr. Lawson helped me craft a response that was both compassionate and clear about my boundaries. We also discussed realistic expectations moving forward. "Your mother may never fully change her behavior," Dr. Lawson cautioned. "Are you prepared to maintain boundaries even if she continues these patterns?" It was a challenging question. Part of me still hoped for a Hollywood movie transformation where my mother suddenly respected my autonomy. The more realistic part knew that decades of entrenched behavior patterns rarely change dramatically. I think so, I said finally. I'm starting to understand that I can love her without accepting manipulation. I arranged to meet my cousin Melissa for coffee again, strengthening a family connection that felt healthy and supportive. She was considering her own holiday boundaries for the coming year. Maybe next Christmas we could do our own thing together, she suggested. Visit the family for a day or two, but stay in a hotel. Create some distance. The idea appealed to me, a middle path between total avoidance and complete surrender. I'd like that, I told her. Maybe we can start new traditions. When I returned to work, Grace noticed the change in me immediately. You seem lighter, she observed. Vermont agreed with you. It wasn't just Vermont, I explained. It was choosing what was right for me instead of what was expected. She nodded approvingly. That's the hardest lesson to learn and the most important one. Took me until my 40s to figure it out. You're ahead of the curve. As January progressed, I found myself approaching all my relationships with greater clarity. I set boundaries with a demanding client at work. I had an honest conversation with Hannah about a pattern in our friendship that had been bothering me. I even declined a date with someone who seemed nice but gave off subtle red flags. Each small act of self-advocacy built upon the last, creating a foundation of self-respect that felt new and empowering. In late January, I sent my parents a photo of myself at the Vermont cabin, smiling genuinely in front of the fireplace. My Christmas was peaceful and happy, I wrote. I hope yours was too. Let's talk about a visit in February, maybe just a lunch to start. Setting terms for the visit was another small act of boundary setting. Not a holiday. Not a overnight stay. Just lunch, with a clear beginning and end. My mother's response was predictably mixed. Happiness about seeing me, subtle digs about how the family Christmas wasn't the same without you, and already some pressure about Easter plans. But this time, her attempts at manipulation didn't send me into a spiral of guilt and anxiety. I simply noted them, reminded myself of my boundaries, and responded to the parts of her message that were genuine. Looking back at the Christmas text that started it all, let's skip Christmas this year for peace, I realized the irony. By refusing to skip Christmas on my terms, my parents had inadvertently given me the greatest gift possible, the courage to create my own peace by honoring my own truth. True peace, I now understood, doesn't come from avoiding conflict or surrendering to manipulation. It comes from being authentic even when it's difficult, from setting boundaries even when they're challenged, and from creating a life that reflects your values rather than someone else's expectations. As I hung up the phone after finalizing lunch plans with my parents, I felt calm and centered. This journey wasn't over. Maintaining boundaries is ongoing work, but for the first time, I felt equipped to navigate it without losing myself in the process. And next Christmas? I already had ideas for new traditions that honored both my need for authenticity and my love for family, on my terms, not theirs. Have you ever had to create boundaries with family during the holidays? Drop a comment below and share your experience, the good, the bad, and the awkward. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and share it with anyone who might be struggling with similar family dynamics. Remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish.